Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 is perhaps the most story-focused game we have seen so far. While solving puzzles, we may have obtained bun, but when we delve into the depths of the story, we find ourselves in a much more profound narrative. Forget the characters and stories you knew in the game so far, because everything is much different. Our main character is the Prototype, also known as Subject 1.06. What does it look like? And who was it before? The child named Ollie, who spoke with us without tension. These questions linger in our minds like a deep wound. However, Chapter 3, with its hidden details, tells the whole story. So, as I slowly narrate the game from the beginning, I'll also share with you all the details that may have been overlooked. A deep Poppy Playtime story awaits you. I am XQ, and I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like it because when releasing the last part of Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, support the channel and the video, you can simply like and leave a comment. Thank you very much in advance. Chapter 3 begins after the train crash that occurred in Chapter 2. Almost escaping from the factory at the end of Chapter 2, Poppy redirects us to a different rail line and we lose track. Chapter 3 starts with Catnap finding us after this crash and throwing us into the depths of the factory. Especially considering the close ties between Catnap and the Prototype, this character is truly crucial. We wake up in the neglected part of the factory, where monstrous machines are trying to crush us with massive pistons. As we progress, the first thing we see is a phone ringing. We answer it, and on the other end, there is a child's voice eager to help us. Doors around us are powered by power cells, and since we have none, the child sends one to us through a pipeline. After inserting the cell, we continue our journey and encounter the horrifying aftermath of the train crash. While continuing our journey, the little child on the phone, named Ollie, tells us about himself. Later, we traverse through caverns using a cable car line to reach Play, a massive orphanage. What's interesting is that this orphanage is set up in the depths of the mine, receiving no natural sunlight. It is entirely artificial, established only to make orphaned children feel better. On our way to Play, we hear the voice of Elliot Ludwig. He is the owner of the entire factory and expresses his ambitious plans for this orphanage. It is with enormous pleasure that the founder of Playtime Commerce announces Plake, our very own on-site orphanage. But it's not only that, it's a school, a playhouse, a place to belong, our very own ecosystem beneath the surface, dedicated in every inch and detail to ensuring a child's smile. This is the home every orphaned child would want to grow up in, with bedrooms full of toys, schools, and a vast space. In fact, if children want to talk and share something with adults, there are even spacious counseling offices for that. In the heart of this massive orphanage, there are statues of smiling crits, the toy figures. These statues were originally television stars, children's favorite TV show, sold as plush toys to other kids outside the orphanage, outside the factory. However, when these toys reached a wider audience, some situations were noticed. The plush of the toy named Catnap, sold as a nightmare-inducing toy, entered many households. Children woke up terrified from their sleep, telling their families about this, and after repeated nightly occurrences, families receiving counseling support realized there was a common point. All children having nightmares owned the Catnap toy, and the gas inside triggered all these nightmares. Subsequently, all these toys were collected, and the factory refunded the money. As you can see, the whole incident leaked to the press. In fact, inducing nightmares with a toy was planned. The gas used to make orphanage children sleep under went some changes in production, and when the gas was inserted into the toys, it went unnoticed. However, later, we learned from a tape within the game that children in the orphanage also experienced the same nightmares. After acquiring this information, guided by Ollie, we enter a room under the statues. This is a room used only by staff and contains a pipe connected to another room. Ollie gives us the necessary keys through the pipeline. The first key is for the room where gas production takes place. We take the key and go to the gas production area. According to Ollie, we need to transport this dreadful red gas from one place to another at that moment, and it is all on the right. We need to pull it to the left to reach the Prototype. During this process, as we explore room by room, we find different upgrades for the grab pack. One of them is the Morble, which allows jumping to different places, and with the 2.0 version of the grab pack, air systems are added. This means that when you jump from a high place, these air pressure systems work to lighten your fall. The last feature that comes with 2.0 is that our hands are now longer. Everything seems to be going as planned as we believe we are moving the red gas from right to left when we press the button. However, the moment we press that button, all power in the machine is cut off, and everywhere becomes dark. According to Ollie's explanation, someone has cut off the power, so we need to find the orphanage's backup power source. The backup power source is located under the Yekane. After Ollie gives us the key to the dormitory, we enter the dormitory. The dormitory is completely filled with red gas, and we start breathing it in from the moment we enter. While navigating the dormitory corridors, a radio accompanies us and tells a horrifying story. According to the story, the founder of the factory, Elliot Ludwig, found a child's body in his house, killed by crushing, and it leaked to the press. Most likely, someone who knew about all these events put the crushed child's body in Elliot Ludwig's house to tarnish his name, and then reported it. In this sequence where we listen to radio conversations and walk through the long orphanage corridors, we see something in the distance. It sees us but doesn't attack, as if drawing us to a specific point to hunt us. After navigating the corridors, we enter a room at the end of the corridor. There is a red cassette on the bed, and when we insert the VHS cassette into the player, events unfold a bit differently. Because, remember, the gas we are breathing in causes hallucinations. At the end of the conversation, we see a nightmare-like figure and we try to escape, but we can't be fast enough, and it attacks and devours us. However, all of this is just a hallucination. In reality, nothing like this happened. We find ourselves waking up at the entrance of the orphanage, but we don't have much time. We need to find the backup generator below the orphanage. In the meantime, we acquire a new piece of equipment, a gas mask. This mask will protect us from the red gas and prevent us from seeing hallucinations. With the confidence provided by the mask, we begin to investigate the orphanage. In one of the rooms, we see a cutout of a girl holding a small girl's photo. The photo reveals that the small girl, Kissy Missy, used to sleep and wake up in the room where she was found. In fact, from her drawings, we noticed that when she was a little girl, she had quite a passion for Kissy Missy toys. After all, every toy produced in the factory emerged from these experiments, and all the small children were transferred into their favorite toys during the experiments. Still, among all the experiments, Kissy Missy remains the most docile. Despite being near us, she doesn't get angry and she doesn't attack. She just continues to look at the photo of the little girl. However, there are more rooms to explore in the orphanage. In one of the rooms, we find another VHS tape. This tape contains the conversations of an orphan named Kevin. He is subjected to an experiment by scientists, but another orphan enters the room and joins the conversation. However, they place cameras inside the mascots to observe the children 24/7. By placing one-way mirrors in the rooms, Tan secretly watches them from behind. At the end of the day, we find the generator in the orphanage and start it. When we go outside, Kizim Isi attacks Us, but Poppy stops her, mentioning that we are one of them. The conversation continues, revealing that we are the ones who killed Hagiwagi, Mami Longlegs, and Lexi. In a way, we are the Invincible One, the person who will stop the prototype because all the monsters are actually the prototype's toys. They are all under its control. Whatever the prototype says, happens. On the other hand, we knew from before that the prototype absorbs other beings into its body. When Mami Longlegs died, she asked why we were doing this, and the prototype replied, "To make me a part of it," horrifyingly embracing her. Besides all this, Poppy herself is the one who initially locked herself in a cage to keep away from the prototype. She did it to protect herself. After Poppy explains this, we connect the generator with her, but we need one more backup generator. So we need to go to the school building and open one of its generators, because each building has its own unique backup generator. However, the school is a terrifying place, harboring a horrifying creature inside, Mrs. Delight, a former teacher providing education to the children. In fact, she is one of the girl toys specifically produced for the orphans to receive education, placed in the school. When we look at her face, she doesn't move, but the moment we turn around, she tries to hunt us from behind. We learn a lot about Delight in the school building. When we press her speech button, she talks about her siblings. Looking at old camera recordings, we can already see her and her siblings. So, what happens to her sisters? One day, the school gets locked and nobody can get out. In the school, Miss Delight and her sisters are there, but as time passes, hunger sets in. At this point, Miss Delight realizes what will happen and makes a makeshift hammer from pens, killing her sisters and using their bodies as sustenance. This way, she survives for a long time. The interesting part is that she even gives a name to the makeshift hammer she made herself. Its name is Barb. She continues to talk to us, even addressing her makeshift hammer while conversing. More importantly, we find out through notes found around that Catnap is the one who locked her sisters in the school. There is actually a purpose behind this. While all the factory workers were being killed, Catnap wanted to protect the children in the orphanage. The sisters were too savage and wanted to kill the orphans, so Catnap locks them in the school to prevent harm to the orphaned children. There is even a VHS tape with a dialogue between them. While we are finding all the notes and tapes, Miss Delight is trying to escape. Eventually, we come to the threshold of a door, pull the door handle, and the door closes on Mrs. Delight. This way, the last remaining sister dies. As we continue our journey, we enter a huge cave. This cave is significant because, for the first time, we get an idea of what the prototype looks like. Catnap, along with all the dead bodies it found around, creates a body to worship, and we can see in the game that Catnap worships this body. So, why is Catnap so attached to the prototype? 12 children were selected as subjects. One day, some of these 12 children consider a way to escape from the orphanage, steal grappling hooks, and start wandering around the factory unknowingly. It is precisely at this point that an accident occurs, the details of which we do not know. Theodore Grell, or Katin when he was a little orphan, narrowly escapes death. The prototype saves him, and after the experiments, Katin starts to regard the prototype as his god. A crucial tape we acquire also confirms this. From this conversation, we understand that Plyke is actually Catnap's prison, and they believe that one day, the prototype will save them. Similar to how Mommy Longlegs looks after the children and plays in the place where she gets stuck, or Higgy Vegan constantly stands with his hand up, watching the workers. Experiment 1006. Isa is already part of the laboratory, and experiments continue on him. The scientists working here keep this information hidden from everyone. At the end of our cave journey, Isa finds the way to Playhouse. This place is a back door, and according to Ollie, it was the most terrifying place. Nonetheless, we still enter. Inside, we see small figures that fear light. So, with our weapon, we need to emit light to drive them away. If even one of them catches us, they start gnawing at our body like mice. We understand this when we find Dog Day's mutilated body later on. His lower body has been chewed and consumed by small toys, and the one behind all this is Catnap itself. The reason for killing the entire group of friends is due to their different views on worshipping the prototype, which angered Catnap. One of them recalls that we are Poppy's savior angel. Remember, in the first game, we receive a letter that leads us to return to the factory. The letter has a daisy symbol on it. However, a question arises. Who are we really? We know we worked at the factory, but why are we the only one receiving the calls? Why are we the only one capable of doing all this? Why does everyone think we are the savior angel, as if none of this is a coincidence? While pondering these questions, Dog Day is under attack by hundreds of smiling crickets. They take control of his body, and Dog Day tries to kill us. Using our ability to jump, we escape from him, and nothing happens to Tan. He gets stuck inside the factory, and there's a possibility of seeing him in the upcoming sections. Later, we go back to the player's garden, and Ollie calls us, saying that we need one more backup generator, and it's in the advisor services. To open the last backup generator, we enter the advisory office. In the advisory office, we have two important tapes. One tape focuses on the day everything started, a warning tape. After the warning sounds, a message appears on the screen. Now open the doors, the time has come. Our second tape is found in Stella's office, who you might not remember. She was present in one of the tapes we found in the first game, expressing her love for toys and wanting to be a toy. She used to work in toy production when she first started her job. Later, she observed orphans in the play area next to Mommy Longlegs, and eventually, her rank increased. In Chapter 3, she was assigned to the Play Care Advisory Office, and we can see her name on the door. When we enter Stella's room, another tape awaits us. Later on, we learn that Stella joined the experiments after participating in tests. However, the crucial point is not this. What matters is that the woman dealing with adoption affairs knows nothing about the experiments. From this, we understand that every employee in the factory is unaware of the events taking place. The scientists know how horrific the experiments are, and they keep it a secret from everyone in the orphanage. The other children also have no knowledge of what happened to their peers or that they were subjected to experiments. Such a well-established system has been created that nobody even hears a whisper of this. After collecting all the tapes that provide us with this information, we proceed towards the depths of the advisory office. In the room where we obtain a power cell, Catnap catches us off guard, locks us in a room, steals our gas mask, and leaves us in the midst of the red smoke. Subsequently, hallucinations resume. Amidst these hallucinations, we gather crucial information. Previously, orphans were actually trained to work in the factory. And most likely, the teachers at the school who are involved in education have undergone experiments themselves. Then, they began training the children who grew up within the factory and could work. As the main character, we are also someone who has worked here, and likely, we were an orphan since childhood. Although we cannot see our main character from childhood, I believe we are also one of the toys. I deduce this from Poppy's previous statements, such as, "They tortured you, they tortured us." We know that during all the experiments, the children's bodies are transferred to the toys, and their brains and spinal cords are extracted and transferred into the toys. The pain of this process is evident. It is torture. This increasingly supports the possibility that we are also one of the toys. After witnessing these hallucinations, when we wake up, Catnap issues a warning, telling us to leave play, or else it will hunt us down. At this point, the fact that Catnap locks up the teachers in the school or attacks us is actually an attempt to protect us. It tells us about the value it places on us. Catnap knew us from before, and it turns out it was trying to prevent us from leaving. We can't leave. We go back to the backup generator in the advisory office and climb back up to the main hole. We have now activated all backup generators, bringing the energy capacity to 1,000%, and Ollie transfers all this energy to a powerful battery. This way, we can go to the gas office, install the power, and reverse everything. We can move the red gas from the right to the left. However, things don't go as expected. Catnap reappears, preventing this event. Once again, it releases red gas from its mouth, and hallucinations resume. Now, we see K3NB as more terrifying than Catnap. It tries to catch us, and we try to escape from it. When we go up the elevator, we encounter another tape, one of the most important ones, analyzing the thoughts, speech, and character of Subject 106. I possess a question. Do you feel anything? This question refers to what exactly you stick flesh. Do you feel it? I learn something new about you every day. Here, we discover a horrifying feature. The prototype can speak like the creatures it assimilates, mimicking their voices. This raises a question about us. We haven't seen our face, and we don't know who H is. H is someone Poppy trusted before, but we don't know when Poppy last saw Ollie. In other words, previously, there might have been someone named Ollie. If Ollie was consumed by the prototype, it could speak and think like Ollie. Some parts of the game repeat. Ollie describes the room next to the stairs twice, using the exact same sentences. While we are trying to defeat Catnap, who is attacking us with hallucinations, we have a hidden purpose. We collect batteries from around and perform an extreme overload on the Ark. This way, we will overload the electricity, and Catnap becomes a part of the prototype. As devoted as it was, it gets killed once again. In short, Catnap does not save itself as it hoped, but for us, the threat of Catnap is eliminated. Then, we go down to fulfill what we have been supposed to do. We go to the gas machine and shift the gas from the right to the left. Thus, we fulfill Poppy's wish. Kissy Missy comes with us, and Poppy presents the most crucial tape to us. The tape's title is Time to Shine, a tape where everyone in the factory is killed. Here, we hear about events we already knew, and what they told us before seems absurd. Different information could have been provided. We knew that people died in some way. The only extra detail we learn is that they hid all the killed employees below and sustained their lives by feeding on those corpses. To stop this senseless massacre, we need to go down with Poppy. There is a special elevator for this purpose, and we don't know what it was made for or what awaits us below, but the only thing waiting could be the answers themselves. The cutting room awaits us above to direct the elevator. Still, as we descend, we hear dreadful sounds. We realize that the prototype's cutting is near us, but the elevator is too slow, and before reaching the top, the lid above us closes. Thus, Chapter 3 ends here. Now, think again about what I just said about Ollie. Doesn't it seem like a perfectly planned event? The cutting is left above, and Poppy and I go down. At that moment, one of our strongest and loyal characters is attacked, and not just by the prototype. It has devised a plan to trap us, completely corner us, and leave us to rot below. In fact, we know how clever the prototype is when it was observed in the laboratory. It demonstrated its intelligence by creating items from the surrounding objects and attacking. It manipulated Poppy to misunderstand the truth and set a trap for us. Do you believe it a bit now? Listen to Ollie's first reaction when the power is cut off, as if he did it himself but pretends as if he is lying. Yes, this concludes the entire story of Chapter 3. I didn't fit at all to make this video, and now I'm going to adapt. From this moment on, the video is entrusted to you. Comment, like, support for the algorithm, and then see you in a completely different Poppy Playtime video. Goodbye, take care of yourselves very well.